Fuck.
Yeah, it looks like YouTube looks good. It has the streaming starting soon thing on it now.
Good.
I had the audio playing from YouTube, so it started giving me feedback.
Yeah, you may want to mute that, and we'll just see who else shows up.
Cool.
What did I just do? Oh, Halberstadt. I just resized my window, and something very strange happened with StreamYard.
No, it still looks pretty the same on YouTube. But...
Yeah, I've got it up on another.
Okay, good.
I feel like I need to show you. To show you.
That proposal for Sands Anderson looks good. I haven't given it a thorough review or anything, but just from my Passover.
Yeah, I just realized it's being recorded. I'm also, it looks like there's an issue with the LinkedIn link, but I don't know that there's much I can do about that. As StreamYard does some weird stuff with LinkedIn. Remind me, by the way, before we post this. I need to edit this video. We have another attendee. Well, hello, and thank you for joining us today for the first N-Consulting live webinar on getting started with AI for small business. My name is John Halberstadt. I work with N- as the head of consulting ops. I'm also a practicing consultant with the organization. I'm here with my fellow teammate and collaborator and all things AI. I don't use the word guru a lot, but if I did, I would use that label for my friend and teammate and inspiration, Steve Daniel. And we're going to go ahead and get started now. talking about getting started with AI for small business. So go ahead and click over here. Thank you all again for joining us today. Today's agenda: why AI? Why this moment matters for small business. Introduction to AI. So what AI is, what it isn't, and how it works. And I think as Steve talks through this, there may be some aha moments, large and small, for some of us to really get past all of the hype and the hyperbolics about AI. We'll talk about AI in practice, real world examples of AI use across business functions, especially for small businesses. We as small business leaders, myself as one as well, I use these tools to help my small business. And we wear a lot of hats in small businesses, and this can be really incredibly helpful and useful for us to be able to use AI to help us in those areas where maybe that's not our core competency. How to write better prompts. And if you're not familiar with the term prompts, we'll talk about that. But that's basically the way that we interact with these AI systems. And the not so secret that we'll share with you is how to write better prompts so that you get better quality outputs. You get things that are useful and usable for you and for your small business. After we've talked about how to write better prompts, then we'll give you some real world prompts that we use that you could use as they are or with very minimal modifications to help you with some things that you likely want or need for your small business's operation to be more efficient, to be more effective, to better support your customers, to be more profitable. All of those things that we're all really looking for and can be a challenge for those of us who are small business owners. We'll talk about risks, barriers, and responsible use. I often say, if you drive a Toyota and somebody gifts you a Ferrari for whatever reason, congratulations, by the way, and introduce me to that person. But with any powerful tool, we need to be cognizant of and plan for how to use that powerful tool appropriately so bad things don't happen. And then what's next? So some suggested next steps on how to get started in your day-to-day, the way that as I do a number of these educational sessions, what I often say is you're going to invest a little bit less than an hour of time with us today. I'd like you to see that as an investment. And for that to be the case, that means that we need to provide things to you that in an hour from now, you will be able to meaningfully do something different that's valuable that you couldn't do an hour before. That's how I judge our success. I hope that you find that as a good way to approach that. And with that, we're going to jump right in. I might make my GenAI joke about delving right in, which is a sort of semi-inside joke because a lot of these language models use terms that are not very common anymore. Delve is one of them. It's a telltale way to spot a lot of things that have come out of ChatGPT specifically, although it doesn't happen as often as it used to. So with that, why AI? So Steve, can you talk to us a little bit about the information that you had found from looking at some SMB, small and medium-sized business studies, the largest and most impactful ones? Can you talk to us about what you found? What does the data say? Why should small business owners even care?
Sure. Thanks, John. Yeah, so this is data aggregated from several reports and studies of over 5,000 small businesses. The bars on the left show where AI is already working for small businesses, and the bars on the right, the pink bars, show where owners believe AI will matter most in the near future. You can see on the left side of the chart, we got marketing, sales, and customer service leading the way in both adoption and expected impact. But on the far right, analytics, and inventory, supply chain, and operations even are all expected to rise fast to grow sharply as tools improve.
Yeah, and what I noticed in this as you and I were reviewing this data in advance of this session was the numbers are high, and obviously for marketing, sales, and customer service in terms of being used today. But whatever the bar is on the right, I'm colorblind, so I can't always tell what color is what. But the bars on the right, to me, were even more interesting. The estimated impact from these small business owners in the next 2 to 3 years. What occurred to me in looking at this is across the board in all of these areas, that the average is in the 60%, 65% range. So the not so secret of all of this, of course, not to be scary about it, but the reality is if we're not using these tools and our competitors are, we are at a material competitive disadvantage. So it's just something to be cognizant of, but also to understand that this is an area where we really need to weave in these tools into our day-to-day operations, especially for small businesses. A lot of us have very minimal margins in our business, so it's even more so when we can get those greater areas of efficiency or better customer support or better sales support. So thank you, Steve, on that. And as far as an introduction to AI, and let's go ahead and Steve, if you could talk a little bit about meanings and myths. I think there's a lot of, people sometimes still see AI as something close or akin to magic. And let's talk about what it is. It's powerful, but behind the scenes, if you could sort of help us a little bit with the meanings and myths. So.
Sure. At its core, AI is just software that recognizes patterns and adapts from experience. It's not a new concept, but the scale and accessibility of today's systems are what makes it especially unique in this moment.
Right.
Yeah, what makes it powerful isn't thinking per se. It's the fact that it learns from enormous amounts of data and can predict likely outcomes, words, or actions.
Right.
Yeah.
And as you have said here, so as you were talking about, this is smart pattern recognition. And as you and I often say, we really distill it down to it's got tons of that data, but it is math. There's a lot of probability that is really informing this. But at the core of it, it is, as you've said, pattern recognition trained on a lot of data. But your last bullet point you brought up, if you could just talk through that, because I think that's really core that we'll cover in different areas about we as the operators of this really need to be responsible. So your last bullet point here.
Sure. This is something that we can use as a collaborative tool. It shouldn't be the end-all be-all of decision-making for us. It can guide our decisions. It can help us come up with ideas that we might not have thought about initially on our own. But this is just math. It's just probability. And just because it suggests this as a likely possibility or outcome or idea doesn't mean that this is going to be the right fit for you.
Right. And so now we talk about what isn't AI, and I think this is really important as well. If folks haven't heard the word anthropomorphization, and I'm not still sure at this point if it's a word. I know the iOS keeps underlining it for me. So to anthropomorphize, I think at least is a word. But as you talk about that and the idea of giving human-like qualities to these machines, what AI is not.
Yeah, it's it doesn't think or feel in the way that humans do, and can't make independent judgments, and doesn't replace human judgment. It's doesn't understand the world the way that people do. No beliefs, intentions, or self-awareness. But it's a system for simulating thought and intelligence.
Right, and that's a conversation for a deeper dive, and maybe not a webinar, but the personification, the anthropomorphization of these systems has some benefits. It's easier to talk to machines using the language that we use, but I think there's also some inherent dangers that we don't cover in today's session, but things to be cognizant of giving human-like emotions and empathy to math, I would say is a little bit problematic. So some misconceptions, Steve. This is something I know that you've talked about a number of times and that we believe are really important to sort of debunk these. So could you talk through some of the key misconceptions that we see?
Sure. Yeah, this first one is it's a pretty common misconception and misunderstanding that people have, and prevents people from adopting AI for any usage because they think that it's supposed to be perfect, and since it isn't, it's useless. That's a little bit, but yeah. So, like any other tool, AI is valuable even when it's imperfect. You can use the output, but then it requires human intervention before it.
You still invest time, and there's still effort there, and we'll show some examples later of where that would be, as Steve has been talking about. The other point that you had talked about, and I really like your examples, is that it's cheating. This idea of, well, if I use AI, somehow, things somehow should be implicitly more difficult. And it's like, why? So you gave some examples here, but could you briefly talk through some of those?
Yeah. That's it's like saying that using a calculator is cheating at math, or using Excel is cheating at accounting. Tools have always extended our abilities. What matters is how we use them, and how responsibly and transparently we do it. Um,
Absolutely. And then this last one again, there's some common themes are occurring, and I know you and I both, as mentioned on that prior slide, this idea of AI thinks like a human. So if we can sort of debunk that misconception as well.
yeah, it doesn't think, not like a human. It doesn't reason, reflect, or truly understand. It has no experience from which to tie these concepts and words. It predicts. It just takes a lot of data, and can generate an answer based on the most likely next set of words. It's not
Right.
deciding what's true. It's choosing the most statistically likely combination of words or actions.
Right. And as you said, and I mean this sort of rallying cry, or this point that you make, I think is really important as we consider these tools. Again, small business owners, I think we are by definition very pragmatic, and we really want no nonsense sort of concrete guidance. And I think this is about as clear as anything. It's a tool, it's a resource, it's not a shortcut, it's not a person, and it's not an excuse, but it will help us if used thoughtfully in some of the guidance that we'll provide in a little bit, in terms of the specific examples. And the thoughts that we've had so far really should help you use that as a powerful tool, but to not use it for those other things, and to try to at least mitigate the risk of using it in ways that will be net negative. That's really what we want to, we really want to orient the use to things that are useful and effective. So AI versus generative AI, just as a very brief aside, when we talk about AI in today's session, and a lot of what many of us will be unintentionally conflating, the industry doesn't do much to help address that from my vantage point, is that AI is an umbrella of different technologies in the pursuit of human emulation, artificial intelligence, generative AI, which is really what we're talking about when we talk about ChatGPT or its ilk, is new in the sense that it allows us to create things rather than not to say that things like natural language processing or machine learning, which are both part of these tools, the GenAI tools as well, but those fields, robotics, etc., all of those are incredibly valuable. Generative AI is unique in the sense that it can, as is in the name, generate things that did not exist before. So it's looking at patterns, but it is creating derivative things based on those patterns. And that is something that is unique about, from this umbrella, the subset that is GenAI. So with that, Steve, if you could walk us through quickly, not in detail, the last 5 years of generative AI. AI itself goes back, depending on how you count, I would say close to 100 years. And some people may have different metrics on that are even further out, depending on what you call AI. But the last 5 years, so I'll just bring all of these items up here. Could you talk us through high level, kind of what is it? What are we seeing? What do we distill from these patterns?
Sure. Yeah. So if you think about it, 5 years ago, we couldn't ask AI to draft an email, or ask any machine to summarize a meeting. But now, those capabilities are built into apps that we're using every day. So we're living through one of the fastest technology adoption curves in history, and it's really important that we ask ourselves now, not should we use AI, but where and when can we use it to best serve our business needs. Yeah, it's now core to our business infrastructure, and we can use it for ROI.
Right, and that will just keep continuing. And I think the thing that we've talked about that is unique about AI as compared to other technologies is the exponential growth in terms of really every sense of that word. That it is truly, it seems like almost every day, certainly every week, there is a new technology, there's a new approach, etc. So difficult to keep up with those sorts of things. And that can be a challenge. And that's one of the reasons why we do these sorts of webinars with no catch, is to really say we want to help keep folks informed, especially for small business owners. You already have enough things to keep track of and to take care of and to own. how do you stay aware of the things that could help your business when they're changing so rapidly? So how are we seeing AI in small businesses? We talked about a little bit of this on the slide, and Steve, feel free to jump in at any point if you'd like, but on the graph that you provided, just to continue that out with a little bit more detail and depth. Operations and efficiency. So AI helps with things like admin work. And again, in small businesses, not that larger businesses don't have an issue with administrative work, but in small businesses, we generally aren't going to have an admin assistant. We may have somebody who is a generalist who helps with operations, who helps with customer service, but we're not going to have dedicated people in these roles. So using these tools really can help small businesses in an order of magnitude, substantial ways. The other thing is, if we're dealing with a lot of churn, and a lot of small businesses have a lot of cycling in terms of staffing, and that's just a reality of a number of these roles, AI can also help us with quality and consistency in what we do, and that can be very important. Customer engagement and marketing. So, every small business, at least all the ones of which I'm acquainted, regardless of industry and domain, we all have customers. Well, we all have customers, but we want to engage with those customers, and we need to market to those customers. Maybe we don't use those words, but people give us money for the business and the support that we provide, the services that we provide. How do we make sure that we're growing, nurturing, strengthening those relationships with our customers, whoever they may be, B2C, B2B, whatever that is? AI can help with content creation, especially from a branding perspective. It can help with personalization, which really matters. So we're talking specifically about particular groups or even individuals that are our customers. And then helping with having service available 24/7, depending on the needs and nature of your business, to be able to support your customers. You're not going to likely be able to support people 24/7, being able to pick up those phones or respond to those emails or messages. AI can help with a lot of that. And then sales and decision support. So again, as a small business owner, we wear a lot of hats. Not all of us are natural salespeople. I know that I'm not. But being able to provide high quality sales collateral, respectful sales collateral that really connects whatever the needs of our customers are. So we're really helping understand their needs, and we're orienting our proposals and our contracts and negotiations to those specific needs. AI can really help us with that. So it's better for everyone involved. I often say I hate the overused phrase win-win, but I love the idea behind it. And AI can really help us. So we can win in terms of a profitable, collaborative, long-term working relationship with our customer. They also know that we are building the best possible solution, best possible pricing, best possible offering to them through using these tools. And again, that's not a skill set that a lot of us who aren't sales as our primary job that we have, but we know that these tools can help us provide higher quality artifacts in the sales process. And that benefits everybody, not just us, but our customers as well. So we've covered this at a fairly high level, but Steve, is there anything on this? I know you had talked about some specific examples in these specific functional areas of businesses that are expected to be most impacted by AI, and some examples. Is there anything here you'd like to share?
Yeah, the big picture here is that AI isn't just good for one thing. You can see how it's proving effective and helpful in all across workload. The slide here really shows where AI is already making the biggest difference and where it's growing fastest. This is from the same data that we got the first slide, the adoption versus impact. But just briefly, I'll just mention a couple of these. Marketing is AI can be a huge time saver for generating fresh content, testing campaigns, running A/B tests for campaigns, and see what's working. And it's like having a creative assistant that doesn't ever run out of ideas. Sales, it can store leads, customer service. The virtual assistants are just hitting the scene this year, and they are proving to be very helpful to small businesses who want to stay in contact with their customers.
Right. Yeah, and I think you've got some other examples up there. Obviously, in the interest of time, we can't go through all of them, but some of the things as you and I reviewed this that I thought were helpful to share with our audience is, again, small businesses. There's a lot of daily tasks, regular tasks that could be automated through AI tools, and that's incredibly valuable. And then again, also HR and hiring. I know that that's a challenge for every business, but especially small businesses. You're trying to run your business when you have to hire people, make sure that you are bringing them on properly, training them, vetting them, all of those things. AI can be incredibly helpful from that respect. So anyway, some great examples here. Thanks again, Steve.
Yeah,
So,
automating workflows can be a really big one too, especially like payroll and daily tasks. That's something that we didn't mention as much of, but automations are a big area here as well.
really good point. And that might be one of our next webinars, is how we can actually show weaving that into some of your workflows to work within the way that you work today and really surgically improve certain areas along the way using these tools to automate and improve the process. So, Steve, before we get into some of the specific examples, again, I think one of the things that is, when we first started working together, we sort of bonded on very quickly was, what do good, high quality, really deep prompts, these ways that we talk to the machine, what do those look like, and how can we structure them in such a way that we can get high quality output? Because I think a lot of folks who may be watching this session, you may have tried something with ChatGPT or one of its ilk, Copilot, and just had really disastrously, embarrassingly bad results. At least I've had that for innumerable interactions. But we do know, although it doesn't solve everything, it doesn't save certain situations, that these appropriately defined prompts are really the not so secret, as I said at the beginning, on getting better quality out of the AI tool of choice. And this, by the way, when I say AI tool of choice, a number of folks still sort of conflate AI with ChatGPT, or if you're a Microsoft shop, maybe you think of Copilot. Everything that Steve and I are talking about today is agnostic to a particular tool. This is guidance. These sets of instructions and suggestions will work with any of these tools, and they will get you much higher quality outputs. We really don't, as they say, we don't have a dog in this fight, so to speak. We want you to be successful with whatever tool you have, and we can make recommendations. But most folks will already have access to a tool, and so this will work on any of them. So, Steve, why does it matter? Why do good prompts matter?
Yeah, like you mentioned, one of the most important helpful things that you can do right now if you're just getting started with AI, or even if you're not, is learning how to effectively ask for what you actually need. So these are the tips on doing that. First of all, generic prompts equal generic results. If you type "write me an email," you'll get something bland and unoriginal. But if you explain who you are and what type of email you want and for whom it is going, then it has context, and it can really put together something specific to your use case. Think of prompting as giving good direction to a new employee. The more specific and clear you are, the better the result.
Yeah, I think that was great guidance. And you had some keys, and we'll go a little bit deeper into these on subsequent slides, but some keys to strong prompts. And your first one was to be specific.
Say who you are, what you do, and what problem you're working to solve. Really important to give it that context.
Yeah, and in your example as well, your audience, and we'll talk through those in terms of the structure for those best prompts. The second that you had provided was to give it context. What do you mean? No pun intended. What's the context about giving it context? What do you mean?
So I like I ended the last point on, is giving it context. There's the context of who you are, what you want, your role, your audience, the timeline, tools that you're using, and then there's a more deep context that you can provide in terms of additional attachment documents or copy and pasted content to give a broader picture of the work you're trying to get done.
Right, and then thank you. And then the last one is to define the output. So, what does that mean, and why? Why is that important?
Without telling the AI what you want it to generate for you, it will do what it thinks is best. And if you have specific requirements or expectations for your output, if you want to see a table, a chart, a checklist, a draft, it's important to clarify that format to ensure that you don't have to run through all these iterations just getting the structure that you need.
Right. Yeah, and I often say when I talk about this is when ChatGPT first came out and I started using it, I would take whatever it provided and I would copy it and I would put it in Excel or Word or whatever tool. Then I would edit it and I would do all these things, and then came to that understanding quite quickly that I can give it direction, and we'll talk in some more detail about how precise you can be to get exactly what you want. But I often will just have a quick sort of litmus test for myself and say, if I'm spending a lot of time copying and pasting from these tools, why don't I give better direction to the tool in advance so that I can do less manual consolidation and modification on the back end? So we'll go through some specifics about what you can ask for and what you want. And that starts with, we'll talk about this template, and I'm going to go through the template example. This, again, is furthering the detail of what Steve was just talking about. And then Steve will walk us through a real world example. And then we will, and my not so funny dad joke about we will delve into, but my ChatGPT joke that nobody smiles about. But we will go into some more detailed examples quite quickly. So the template really is to start with a you are, as Steve has said, who am I? So I'm a small business owner of a coffee shop, or I'm a marketing manager, whatever my role is. I shouldn't just say I'm a small business owner. What type of small business do I own? What do I do? What's my role in that business? Who's the audience? So that's who I am. Who am I doing this for? And it doesn't mean that I'm going to necessarily just take a copy of this and send an email or a chat or whatever, but I'm generating this for, in most cases, somebody. There is some sort of implicit audience. Think about that and specify that to get better quality outputs. The task or goal is normally what people start with. And to Steve's point, you don't want to just go in and say, write me an email. You want to be very specific, even when you talk about the task. The tone and style. So especially when we're writing marketing copy, when we're sending an email to a customer, when we're putting content on our website, when we're doing a proposal, when we're asking for funding. I could go on and use the remainder of the half hour going through the options here, but we will get better quality outputs and we will better resonate with our audience, that user. If we talk about things in the language they use and in the tone that we would like. We don't want to have a lot of emoji if we're sending something, to a professional governing body, for example. We want a professional, formal. I don't want to respond to an audit with emoji throughout that document or something like that. We want to be thinking about the context and make sure that it's applicable for that particular use. The cool thing is that by providing that, it's very quick to have the system regenerate content specifically oriented that way. In many cases, quicker than I could do myself. And then output format, as Steve had said. So it's not, it's not necessarily even just a table. It can be a checklist. It can be a social media post. It could be a PowerPoint. There's a lot of options there. We'll go through a couple of them, but think broadly when you think of that format. And then finally, context, as Steve has said. This one is a little bit hard to explain in some cases. And I still believe that this is, other than the task perhaps, the context is the absolute most important missing piece that folks could spend some more time on and get much better results. So if I'm drafting an email and it's for somebody who has been a combative customer who's not paying their invoices, I want that in the context because it will help in subtle ways, generally subtle, not always subtle, inform the nature of what's being created. So that context is really important for getting precise responses in ways that you can use without a lot of manual editing and to get the level and nature of the impact that you'd like. So Steve, based on that template, can you talk us through this example? And I'll just bring all of these up at once. Walk through.
Yeah. like you're saying about context, and in general, these templates, we have them segmented with fields, labels, with role, audience, task, goal, but you can drop these in plain language. As you can see in the example, we don't have those labels before each one. And things like context and extra info, if you are writing this in plain English, that context can be built into the prompt request. It doesn't have to come at the end like it looks like it might be formatted in this template. You don't necessarily have to memorize the formula. Just think of it as a conversation. What you would need to explain this to a coworker, you should use to explain it to AI. So I'll just walk through this really quickly. And I'll mention when I first started prompting, I did have a little bit of confusion about this role, for this UR. And I thought that I should be explaining to the AI who they are. And that is something that you can do for context. Say the example in the template is coffee shop owner / marketing manager. I want to say I am a coffee shop owner and you are my marketing manager. That'll help contextualize that for the AI to understand that it should be acting in this role. So role can be for both yourself and the AI. So here we are. The role is a local florist, and we provide a little bit of context in here with 4 employees. Then we tell it that's 4 employees isn't the audience as much as the as you see further down.
Right.
Yeah, it's for the followers.
It is, yeah. It's helpful context. No, I'm going to say thank you. So yeah, I'm the florist, but as you say, the 4 employees, that's not the audience, but that is context. And if I was a florist with 34 employees, the nature of what I'm sending out and generating might change, or subsequent prompts might change. But yeah, so I'm a local florist with 4 employees. As you mentioned, you can weave some of the templated information into your example. It's natural language. We're using, human speech, so it doesn't have to be labeled with those prefixes. It can, but anyway. So yeah, that additional 4 employees context may be a little bit helpful, maybe a lot of it helpful, but we like to provide that level of detail. But in this particular instance, this particular scenario, that next bullet point. So what are we having the AI do here?
So here we combine the audience and the task. We say, draft a post for my business Instagram followers. We're saying this is a post that we need drafted, and the audience is going to be the business Instagram followers. We define that task a little more, saying, write a cheerful caption for a fall bouquet launch. And that's the task and goal as well. Then we go on to tone and style with warm, friendly, and seasonal. The output format should be clearly structured so that it fits in wherever you're sharing that content. There's usually a character limit, or so we say limit to 150 characters. This 1 to 2 sentence post, 3 hashtags. The last thing, because I combined the 150 characters and the 1 to 2 sentence post, is this extra context of who our followers are, like defining what that audience looks like so we can speak to them.
Right. And the cool thing about this, and we'll go through some other examples, but it probably will not be shocking to anyone that I am not in my 20s nor in my 40s. I'm a different demographic. I actually don't spend any time on Instagram anymore. But I like to buy flowers for friends and family. And perhaps this same florist, after they do this example, would want to use that same information that Steve just walked through, but make some changes to say, I'm doing a print mailer still for my business, for our warm, friendly, and seasonal campaign for a fall bouquet launch, right? So the core of what I'm offering, I'm a different demographic, but as I'm interested in what this florist has to offer, maybe it's a mailer that comes in the mail, or maybe it's a print, or maybe it's something when I walk by that they have in the window, whatever that might be. But as a small business owner, I often need to be more precise with my particular audiences. We talked about that earlier. That's where GenAI can really help, is this same information with a couple of tweaks you could have 4 different approaches for a marketing campaign based on different demographics. Maybe you do a TikTok one, as well as an Instagram, as well as in print. So those are the sorts of things where AI can really help with things in marketing and save you a lot of time, but also have consistency in terms of what that campaign is, et cetera. So thank you again for Steve. Steve, thanks again for that. Some keys to master GenAI prompting.
Yeah, I'll just walk through these. First of all, feeding it real data or context. It works best when you give it something real to work with and specify what that is that it should be referencing and how it should be referencing it. Tell it who you are, what you want it to. So yeah, the specific with formats is the next one. Defining the output is crucial to make sure that you're aligned and to clarify for the AI what is expected.
Right.
Yeah.
And you put in your example, I love that, because I've seen people do that with the best of intentions. Is like, look at this data, tell me what's wrong with it. But being more specific, again, I'm repeating myself intentionally, being more specific and providing that context, you're far more likely to get what you're looking for. And then finally, another point that we will repeat intentionally. You say review and refine. What do you mean there?
Yeah, sometimes people, and this is where you run into real issues, is you'll take the AI output and turn it in for an official document or just for a blog post. But if you don't review the output and make refinements along the way, either iteratively with the AI tool that you're using, asking it to fix this sentence, reword this, display this as bullets instead of numbered list, you'll end up with output that doesn't sound natural or human or like your own voice. And so it's really crucial before turning something in or using AI output that you really review it and make refinements.
Right. Yeah. And thank you. And as you say as well, and we'll talk about it as we close out at the end of the session, it's also really important as the human in the loop, like whatever we're doing, we want to make sure that we are comfortable and that we have assessed the output and that it does address what we've wanted, and we don't give up until it does or until we've manually modified that. So some real world examples. These are the things that I generally find that folks find most useful. So you are likely not a marketing strategist, but all businesses, especially small businesses, need product descriptions, and we often have promotions. So this is one of 3 real world scenarios. This is the actual prompt. So again, prompt, it's just the way that we talk to the machine. In our first example, you can see that we're prefixing it with those labels of what's about to follow as far as the data in each of these examples. But in the subsequent ones, just so you notice it, we don't have to prefix it. It certainly can be a little bit helpful. It's certainly not harmful at all to prefix it with these tags. You don't need to, but we're doing it intentionally in these examples so that you can see how we're following the guidance that Steve and I just provided on that prior screen. So role, I'm a marketing strategist helping a small independent photography studio build its online catalog. The studio is a single owner LLC specializing in portraits, both for individuals and organizations. It's a lot of detail, right? I mean, I'm not just saying I need a marketing plan. I've talked in great detail about my role and what I'm doing, who my audience is. Now I'm going to get to the task and goal, right? But this is not just a sentence fragment. This is generate a comprehensive list of photography products and services the studio could offer. So irrespective of what they have today, including both traditional and innovative options. Look at how much detail I'm adding to this because I want something that is interesting and useful and has these standard products as well as suggesting products that don't exist yet. I'm asking for them to be organized in clear sections into standard offerings, specialized packages, and innovative add-ons. For each item, ask for a short description explaining who it's for or what makes it unique. I'm asking for a professional but creative and practical tone and style. My format is a structured list with category headers and bullets. And here's that context and extra info. The business focuses on personal portraits, local events, and small business branding. The goal is to inspire website copywriting ideas. So that was our real world prompt. Steve, could you walk us through what we found in the response?
Sure. So As you can see, it is sectioned off into clear sections as we requested in our tasking goal. What's nice is we requested both traditional and innovative options. So it starts off with standard portrait offerings and services and finishes with this innovative add-ons and modern services. This is a lot of choices. We requested it professional, creative, and practical. So the wording for these is clear, but it's also the type of copy that you could use as a description on your website or flyers, and it's engaging for users.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this, by the way, I meant to call out these examples. These are real world screen captures.
Mm-hmm.
We want to show you, based on what we showed you on the prior slide, this is actually what the systems responded with. So a lot of good detail up front. You get a lot of good like I find this content to be quite compelling. I don't know that I love all of it, but 90% of the way there is 90% of the way there, and that's awesome. Also note, to Steve's point, we asked it in that prompt for suggesting innovative add-ons and modern services. We didn't tell it what those were. It came up with some pretty good ideas. Now, again, I don't know that we would choose all of these. We might not choose any of these, but what a great way to get started thinking about what competitive differentiators we might have from a product perspective. As a small business owner, there's a lot of folks who are doing photography in this particular instance, but for any of our services, there's a lot of competition. How do we stand out? These tools are really helpful for giving us some ideas and really starting that ideation process, that innovation process going. So I think that was great. This, by the way, was Claude, Anthropic's Claude. So in each of the examples, we use a different AI tool by design. Again, we like different tools for different reasons, but we want you to know that any tool that you use, you will find similarly high quality outputs if you follow the guidance for those inputs. So the next example is an accountant for standard operating procedures development and template creation. Similar to the last example, right? I mean, most of us aren't going to be accountants. I know I really shouldn't be. I would be far from qualified ever to be an accountant anywhere. But we all need standard operating procedures. My father has owned a small business for most of my life, and he talks about SOPs about as much as anybody, and really having consistent, well-documented, well-defined operating procedures, especially for things that are important and need to be followed with a level of rigor and discipline. So in this particular instance, the example details may not apply to you. They probably don't. But if you think about the idea of wanting a really good, comprehensive standard operating procedures document with some tweaks to this prompt, you could do that for your business today. So in this particular example, I'm a small business accountant. Remember, I'm not talking about role. I don't type that in here. It's clear because I said I am a small business accountant. You also can do what Steve says you are acting as, so you can tell the machine to play a particular role. I don't do that, but it certainly is an option that you can do. I don't like to do that just because I don't like to anthropomorphize the machines. But that's a personal preference. Either way, you'll get high quality responses. So I'm a small business accountant and financial advisor. I provide bookkeeping, payroll, and compliance support to independent retail clients such as local grocery stores and convenience markets. I want to create a standard operating procedure and step-by-step monthly accounting checklist specifically for single location grocery stores with 6 to 10 employees. I'm not going to read all of these verbatim. That could take the remainder of time that we've got. But look at the level of depth and detail here. I'm very, very specific. The audience, I want to make sure that I've got this periodic review and tax filing process, that we've got procedures that address that properly. Like, we don't want an audit and to fail it. Clear, we want it to be clear, instructional, and professional. Again, that tone. But look how I've talked about tone here. Easy enough for a small business owner to follow, but precise enough to ensure accounting accuracy and audit readiness. So those are the sorts of things that you can do from a qualitative perspective. When you think about tone and role, you can use a narrative like this. I specify the following format. So again, I'm not just saying give me tables. I'm not saying do it in Word. I'm saying here's the structure. So when you think about format, same idea. Think broadly, not format as in file type, although you can use that. Format it as in how do you want the output structured? So in this overview, purpose and frequency of use, step-by-step accounting checklist, and I'm very specific. Enumerate each step. I have specific tools or reports. And I'm very specific because being specific ensures that I'm going to get exactly what I want in the SOPs. 3 common pitfalls and recommended controls. So I'm preemptively saying in this guide, provide additional sections, not just operating procedures. Have a template that's available for attaching notes and sign off. And then additional context. Here's the context. It'll be part of an accounting support guide. If any specific document or report is referenced, formatted as attached file name rather than linking externally. This is 2/3 of a page, if not more. But this level of prompt, see how deep and precise this is. It's not just a lot of words. Each of those words has intention. But from that, this is ChatGPT. So again, the last example was Anthropic's Claude. This is OpenAI's ChatGPT. Steve, can you talk us through sort of a high level of what we got, including, I can't help but notice the enumeration. It looks like we got a lot of detail here. What did we get in these screen caps back from that prompt?
Sure. So we requested a 4-section output, segmented, enumerated in subsections, and that's what we got. We got our overview, and as you can see in our screenshot, we cut it at the beginning of section 3, but there are 4 total sections. If you can see that, by the time we got to section 3, we were already 8 subsections in. So that's a lot of content that it gives you as a starting point for the standard operating procedures. If the last one that we showed was more like a brainstorming partner, this one is like a process assistant. It shines here, giving it like an operational problem. It comes back with structure and starting points that you can then adapt to your workflow.
Right.
Yeah,
I think the level of precision here, when I noticed it as well, I love the level of depth that came back. I may want to, and here's where we as the owners of the business need to be responsible, but variances of greater than 10% from prior note and note explanations. Maybe I don't, any variances at all over 1%, or maybe I've got a high, whatever that might be. Excuse me, but that is really where we start, and we look at this, and we can make modifications or ask it to make modifications, but what a great start. And then finally, of our 3 examples, financial advisor for a service package creation. So you are not likely the managing partner of a boutique financial management firm specializing in small professional consultancies and technology advisories. But if I'm a financial advisor and I want to create service packages, this is a really great way to get started with ideating and defining what those might be. Note again how detailed I am. I want new service tiers. I want proposal language for prospective consulting clients who need both accounting oversight and cash flow guidance, who vary widely in size and project-based income. So again, there's a lot of depth in that, but that is very precise, and it's going to help orient the output. Develop 3 distinct service packages: core, growth, and strategic, designed specifically for these firms. I'm talking about firm size. I'm talking about specifically, I want a detailed description of the services, what the value prop is, approximate pricing, sample paragraph, a proposal ready copy that conveys professionalism, clarity, and trust. Again, there's a lot of detail in that prompt, but that's going to get me a really high quality output. The tone and style, again, should be confident but approachable, positioning as an expert partner rather than commodity, should appeal to founders, etc. As far as the format, section 1, summary, including names, features, and pricing. 2, narrative descriptions. 1, so I'm being very specific here. Proposal ready tone. That's the level of detail I'm providing, but that's going to get me some good results. Section 3, optional add-ons, tax prep, KPI dashboards, budget forecasting. Example intro paragraph for full proposal. So I'm asking for all of this with a great level of detail, specifically what I'm going to use it for. That's going to get me high quality, likely nearly ready to go language from the response. The output should stand alone as a client-facing proposal content ready to be pasted into a Word or PDF proposal. So that is another, the majority of an 8.5 by 11 printed page at a reasonable point size. Because we did that, and this is coming out of Gemini, Steve, can you talk us through what that got us, including some things that we didn't provide, and it made some guesses for us, or not guesses, I mean educated guesses based on math, probability. pricing structure. We didn't tell it how to price things. It suggested pricing, and that can be really helpful if we don't have a lot of experience in a particular area. So Steve, can you talk us through what we got out of these, out of the tool in terms of the different items that came in?
Sure. I just want to make a brief note about, you can see here that export to sheets. There's
Yeah.
one of the things you can use to help decide which tool is best for this use case is if I'm building if I use Google Gmail or Sheets for spreadsheets, and I need to generate a spreadsheet or a spreadsheet template, then it might be worth doing it in Gemini so that you can export directly to Sheets or export directly to a new Gmail email.
Yeah.
And similarly for Claude, there's reasons for that, and GPT as well. So that's just something to consider, and we can go into that in a future session. But yeah, back to this one. We requested the summary table of packages, and it did great. I like identifying and labeling the ideal customer, the features, and like you said, pricing. It's not something that you can just take to your customer right away, unless it's a type of customer that can give you that type of active feedback that you'll need to adjust pricing to fit the market. Moving forward, we go into the narrative descriptions. This is usable starting points for each of these packages. It may not be exactly aligned with your business and how you run things, but depending on how much detail you give in that prompt, the more accurate that'll be. And this produced content that lined up really well with the actual prompt that we use.
90% or so of the way there, I found with some of the narrative language, those are areas where I'll just tweak it, and match my own style. But like these examples, Steve, to your point, these if they're not just ready to copy and paste after reviewing thoughtfully, they're pretty darn close. And then the last one, the optional add-ons. And then section 4, that was the last thing that I think we had asked for. So what was the last piece of that?
Yeah, this section 4 serves as the intro paragraph. So all of this could be used as a starting point for a service package proposal. You put section 4 at the beginning, and you add the rest of the sections in order after that. And then you can send it into another GPT for review. That's what's great about the number of these tools. You can use one to create something and another to help review it. That's just another thought.
Great point. Yeah, and I think that might be one of our next webinars is to talk about how we use these tools in our workflow and how we incorporate them and what we use them for. So I know we're getting close to time. So to wrap up, what I normally say, I've been doing webinars on generative AI and getting started for different industries and domains and roles for 2+ years now. And I normally say at this point, so if I've done my job right up to this point, Steve and I, we got you really enthusiastic and excited about using these tools. Now we're going to kill the vibe. So that's a sort of a joke. But back to the Ferrari example, powerful tools. You need some care and learning about how to operate them responsibly. Generative AI certainly falls into there. So Steve, AI and sort of high-level risk zones. The first one I know you've talked about is just issues within the language model itself. And we'll go through this. So built-in risks, the first.
Yeah, built in. There are flaws in the tool itself. This is tools can generate incorrect or biased results. That's why it's always important to verify. Next, we have got workflow risks. That's using AI without review can cause errors or compliance issues. If you don't think about how you're going to integrate it into your workflow, then it can cause issues down the line.
Right. Well, and especially your last bullet point, there are no review systems. So if you've got somebody who's a novice using the tools, they don't follow the guidance that we provided, or even if they do, you get back a response that's problematic and you don't have anyone to review it. That's an issue. And it can be an issue on this next item that you had put out here, which is really, especially in small businesses, especially, we can't afford to, we don't want to lose a customer. So AI, what are some of the risks that you see from a customer perspective?
You can damage trust because AI doesn't understand tone or empathy unless it's pre-coded to create output in a certain tone. You have to teach it what fits your brand, and you should use it to enhance customer experience. And if you don't know how to do that, then you should be limit the use of it for customer service.
Yeah, and also just everyone is adding AI to everything, and I think people are sort of fatigued about adding AI to every single function. So, but then the last one that you have these legal risks and why it's important for us to be responsible. I
Yeah.
remember in the prior slide you had said it's not a tool, it's not a person, it's not an excuse. So it's not an excuse, especially in the context of legal ramifications of using the tool improperly.
Yeah, sharing sensitive data or employee information that can be really risky in these tools, especially if it's not localized to your machine. So you got to be especially aware with these because the ramifications can be pretty damaging to your reputation or your financial standing.
Right. So with that, the biggest barriers to adoption, and I'm gonna speed up a little bit just in the interest of time. On this slide, Steve, the data that you had found, you and I had talked about this. The first thing I noticed was the first thing that's on there, which is no major barriers. And so, as the resident pessimist, not optimist, I look at this and go, that means 94% of people have at least one major barrier. And you can see what they are. And a lot of them have to be from a technical perspective or an uncertainty perspective. That's a large reason why we do this webinar. These webinars is to help sort of address and demystify some of these things and demystify the way to get started that has very limited cost, financial or opportunity wise. But there are some bigger barriers to adoption for a lot of organizations that can be really a struggle for folks. But start with some of the guidance we provided today, and you can get past that pretty quickly. Pushing through the adoption barriers, Steve, I think some things that you had shared. Setting those expectations early is really important with team members. We're going to be doing this and keep those expectations low, as you say. Pick the tools that fit your business. Start small and show wins. Really, we'll talk about what that looks like, and then plan for learning about perfection. Steve, you had talked about this earlier, and I think it's really important. Iterate, 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 iterate. Evolve. Keep trying, and we'll learn from that. As you say, the risks are real, but so is the opportunity. We want to build trust with smarter tools, shape how AI works for our business, really about quality and about customer engagement, but also about efficiency so you can focus on strategy and really spot those risks before they cost you. So in our last minute or so, just some suggestions on getting started. And please follow us. You'll see a QR code up here for our tool set and connect with us on LinkedIn and our website, n-us. But just get started. Find a repetitive task that's problematic for your org or your team today. Choose a general tool. Pilot a single workflow. Just take one thing and try it with that. Quantify those benefits, baseline how big of a problem that was before, then apply AI and measure the impact, and then scale up. But start small with something that's meaningful and measure it, and then scale from there. With that, and we're at time, how can we support you? So N-, we provide strategic guidance and planning on AI strategy, governance and policy design, tool selection support. We do hands-on enablement and education, interactive workshops, role-based training, and ongoing education series. That QR code is a link to our site. And this is a QR code for me. If you'd like to connect on LinkedIn, connect with Steve as well, and follow us at n-us. With that, we are at time. Thank you so much. We really appreciate you joining today. Hope that it's helpful. Would love your feedback and thoughts.